Today I'm going to give you the 5 tips that I wish I knew when I started making future bass music. And these tricks would have saved me so much time and energy and headaches if I just knew them. So in this video, I'm literally going to use these tips to create a future bass drop from scratch for you. So be sure to watch this entire video from beginning to end to ensure that your future bass skills increase by at least 20%. So most of the sounds I'll be using in today's video will be from my new sound bank called Visionary, which is a free sound bank. Just click the link below to claim your free pack, and that way we'll be on the same page for when we make this future bass drop. And I just want you to know that Visionary is a free version of the big pack that I'm making called Orbital, which has over 125 sounds for XFER Serum. And I promise you, this is one of the greatest packs that I've ever made. I literally can't wait till you guys try it. I can't wait to see what you guys have to say about it. And that pack will be available sometime next week. So be sure to stay tuned with me on here and my Instagram so you know exactly when Orbital will drop. Alright guys, so tip number 1 when building drops is to start with the drums. They just give you that solid foundation and solid skeleton to really form your drop around. So I have a few drum samples here. I'm going to use my favorite kick sample in the world that I actually made myself, and I just keep it on my desktop. Rhythm. I always start out with kick and snare, and then I throw in a hi-hat. They work pretty well. And then I'm going to enhance every other snare, which is pretty standard when I build drum loops, and then we're going to put this in this little area here. Most important part about tip number 1 is that you don't move on until your drums are done. If you move on with mediocre drums, you're going to build a mediocre drop around those drums. Alright guys, so tip number 2 is to get your lead right. Your lead is everything in a drop. Without a solid lead, your drop could potentially sound like a background beat. We don't want that. We want super high energy, and that's fully reliant on the lead being high energy and forward moving. So I have a little vocal here from, again, splice.com. What I like to do with vocals is chop them up and just make my own melody. So I'm going to spend some time chopping up these melodic parts and then rearranging them to hopefully come up with a really, really cool melody just like this. So I'm going to pause the camera and get back to you in a second when I come up with something nice. So after chopping these vocals, I came up with this. I edited the pitch of these two and added some reverb, so now they sound like this. So tip number 3 is actually to start with the bass line after you already have a lead, and then just harmonize with that lead. Alright guys, so the lead sound we're using is called Bass Mean, and this bass will be available in the Orbital sound bank. I want you to notice how I'm also following the rhythm of the kick with these bass notes. Alright, so we have a nice bass line here, so let's go ahead and copy that. We're just going to use that as the foundation of our chords. For these chords, I'm going to come into Visionary, and I'm going to use the preset called Lead Huge, and that preset sounds like this. Really, really nice super soft preset, and you can see it says lead here. It doesn't even say that it's a pad or a chord. And that brings me to tip number 4. Don't be afraid to use other types of sounds to do certain jobs. So I talk to my students about this a lot in my premium Slack room when they tell me they've exhausted their presets looking for the perfect sound for, say, a bass, and I say, well, did you try all of the leads to see if there's a good bass sound in any of the leads, or did you try the plucks? Did you try the synths? The coolest thing about presets is that lead presets don't have to just be leads. They could literally be anything. You just have to be creative and try them out. We're using what's technically a lead as the chords. And so I have my bass line here. We're going to bring that up 7 semitones. And then we're going to bring that down for the middle note of the chords. Alright guys, so I ended up with chords that sound like this. Tip number 5 is not to layer any of your instruments until you have a solid foundation of basic instruments like we have here. Layers will create character and beautiful things if you could just get a solid foundation like we have right here. That means one set of chords, one bass sound, one set of drums, and one lead. Once you have all those 4 things and they sound perfect like we have here, then you're good to go ahead and start layering some instruments for character. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the same lead sound for the chords. I'm going to layer the chords with the same sound, only with a little filter on them. So they sound like this now. And with the original chords, we get that sound. So without these, they're a little bit cleaner. But with these, now they're really screaming and pushing pretty hard. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a nice melodic layer here and harmonize with these chords. And the preset that I'm using here is called Pad Gorgeous. And this pad will be available in Orbital, which you'll be able to get next week. Alright guys, so I'm going to take these chords now and start harmonizing Pad Gorgeous. Okay, so I'm going to go into Visionary now and take Pluck Expensive and just add some nice harmonies and melodies. And something nice and airy like that with those nice transients would sound really, really nice in the background of what we have here. I don't know why I waited so long to do the sub bass, but I have bass hottest sub from the Visionary pack coupled with the bass mean. And if we play everything here, we get a pretty nice drop. Go guys, if you would like to learn more about sound design, melody writing, chord writing, and pretty much anything you would need to know about electronic music production, come join me in my EDM Boot Camp. The EDM Boot Camp is not just a course that will teach you literally everything about music production, but it's also a premium community where you can ask me any question you want and get unlimited feedback on your tracks. And it's exactly stuff like this that I didn't have when I was growing as a producer. And so if you're interested in something like that, come join me in the EDM Boot Camp. I really do look forward to seeing you in there.